All right, up next, joining us to celebrate the 200th episode of Two Black Nerds and to talk about all things related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Brian K. Williams, aka Brian Knows Movies. He is an expert movie reviewer, blogger, enthusiast. We are so excited to have you here today, man. How you doing?
Yes, yes.
I am so excited and elated to be on the 200th episode of Two Black Nerds, one of my favorite podcasts on Spotify. I was just telling the guys before we started how much I enjoy it. This is definitely my honor that you guys thought that I'd be good enough to join the big dogs here, if I can say that.
Man, you were a big dog yourself, of
Yeah, the
course.
pleasure
So
is all ours.
yeah, exactly. So we had to bless, this 200th episode with your presence. So really, really happy for you to be here. So let's go ahead and dive into it. As we say that we're talking about the MCU today and some of the challenges that they faced over the past few years. I think post 2020, post Avengers Endgame, things have certainly been a bit different for the MCU compared to what I think we're used to and what we've seen out of them. But before we dive into the specific topic, I just kind of want to get your feelings generally, Brian, about how you feel about the MCU right now. Like if you had to just boil it down to a sentence or just a phrase in terms of, your overall feelings towards what we've seen out of the past few years of the MCU, what would that be? Would it be more adoration? Would it be a little bit of maybe apathy towards what we've seen? What's your temperature right now towards the MCU?
I think that it's if I was to say one sentence, I'd be like uh a lot of good, some bad. I think I'm a lot more positive on phase four and the beginning of phase five than some. But when they really miss, they really miss, and that used to not be the case in terms of how uneven MCU has been in the past. But I think that there's definitely some issues, and I really don't. The main issue is that you don't really know how they can move forward from where they are now in a way that doesn't just throw out everything in the kitchen sink to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really well said. Like it's hard to see like the next few years. I think comparatively to where we used to be maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, there was a very clear roadmap. But because of just all the things that have sort of impeded them on being as successful as they used to be, it's kind of hard to see the forest through the trees, I think, at this moment. But let's talk about the specific topic that we wanted to, sort of broach with you as it relates to the MCU. And this is kind of a big one. And I do want to just say for people listening, like, please take this whole conversation with a grain of salt because we're going to be talking about behind the scenes drama and issues that the MCU has had over the past couple of years. And the reality is, none of us are walking the halls of Disney or Marvel Studios, so we don't know exactly the nature of some of these things. But based off of reports that have come out, based on things that we've researched and read, we're going to have a conversation. But I do want to talk about a lot of the behind the scenes things that have just really caused some issues, more than they've really ever experienced. There's so many things to really grapple. There's the VFX industry and some of the pushback towards Marvel, and what they've sort of, I guess, perpetuated for the past few years in terms of the incredible amount of work. There's sort of a power battle that's been happening over the past few years between Bob Iger and Bob Chapek. Victoria Alonso, one of their huge executives who worked for them pretty much from the very beginning, got a pink slip like a few months ago. She got fired from the studio, and that was just a huge surprise. There's numerous delays. There's things that are completely out of their control, like COVID and the strike. I mean, there's just so much. So, before we dive into like any specifics, Brian, like how do you feel about just like sitting back and witnessing, I think, what might have been the most unlucky year or couple of years that Marvel has ever had? Of course, they've had problems in the past, but it feels like more now than ever they're facing a huge uphill battle in terms of just all these things that happen behind the scenes.
It's the curse of wanting more, right? They launched the most ambitious set of films and television series. I mean, they never even had television series until phase four. They launched all this stuff before everything blew up in their face, right? Before COVID happened, before there was all these issues at the top level where Bob Iger was hating on his protege, Bob Chapek. But remember, Bob Iger is the one that picked him to be there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
The releasing of executives who had done such a great job and the fallout from that. A bunch of stuff happened with a plate of a menu that they had basically spoon fed to all the Marvel lights out there, if I could say that, at Comic-Con, that I don't know how they're going to live up to that now, just because there's been so many issues. Phases 1 through 3, there was no issue. It seemed like everything was just, they were just riding the wave. At least there wasn't anything that we were hearing about. Yeah, there was the James Gunn stuff a little bit, but outside of that, if that was the biggest drama today, they'd be sitting in a pretty good spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really well said, Des. I think we're accustomed to hearing about this amount of problems from the DC side of things, right? When
Yeah.
we look at DC and Warner Brothers, they have just had a litany of issues, and I think to a point that it's actually it crippled them for a really long time, for lack of a better term. I just think that once so much information gets out about a franchise, people I think can become very turned off to just the taste of what that might mean for the product itself. Do you
Mm-hmm.
fear that Marvel could potentially end up in a situation like that where if they don't really get a handle on just the vast amount of issues that have just been plaguing them over the past couple of years, they might be heading in some dangerous territory where people might just say like, I don't even really care anymore. I don't want to mess with this.
Absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is all consumerism, right? You have to buy into the product. It's all if people don't like it and people don't go see it, your product can fail. And Marvel is no exception to that. And we've seen glimpses of that again within these past couple of phases where there's movies beginning to fail. And again, for Marvel, it does feel unprecedented. But it also, I think hopefully again, they're learning from the lessons, but there should be a check on the chin for Marvel, right? To say like this thing is possible, this ship can sink, and if anything, I think they should just be again very vigilant and aware that that's the case. That this thing you have to continue to steer the ship, I think, in the right direction, or else you are going to end up closer to, I think, the way in which DC had to end up. You know what I mean? With all these movies not doing as well as they have, and so sure, they're not there yet. They're not that level of train wreck yet, but hopefully they put some fire right to the feet of Marvel with these movies, man, and they start to clean some of this up.
I
Brian,
don't
I'll go ahead.
I don't know what that cleanup looks like. There's so much drama that for example, the first thing that come to mind is like they were able to sign Robert Downey Jr. They were able to sign pretty basically all the main Avengers, right? To
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, 8 film deals. And actors don't want to do that anymore. You're getting 2 and 3 film deals. So how do you form an Avengers that people want to see if you're only able to sign these and I think that was a decision on Marvel side too, to sign them to these smaller contracts. That's the issue to me, especially when you have people like Elizabeth Olsen and Zoe Saldana and Dave Bautista and all these other people talking about how this machine has limited their creativity and their creative expression and how they have regrets from doing that. You have also Chris Evans and other folks really praising their time with Marvel, but other folks is like, I don't know what to do outside of really getting creative with the properties that they have with these short contracts. So that's just
Mm-hmm.
one of like dozens of issues that they have, right? So do they DC's problem was that they were just trying to do things to me too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Now it seemed like Marvel's not going fast enough based off the situation that they have, right?
Yeah, I love that you said that too about the contract situation. That has been a huge shift for them too. And I don't think that the situation caused that. I think actors, to your point, were just kind of naturally gravitating towards not wanting to commit themselves to these really long deals. But I think about the Scarlett Johansson situation a couple of years ago, another big behind the scenes sort of tumultuous situation
Mm-hmm.
that Bob Chapek probably didn't handle all that well. I think a lot of people looked at that situation like, yo, what the fuck? She is one of your premier franchise players. She's been there practically since the beginning. She's coming out and saying that she feels like she's being, sort of shortchanged in terms of her pay. She's already a woman, so that's an uphill battle. And then
Mm-hmm.
Disney as a company comes back very combative, and I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It certainly rubbed Bob Iger the wrong way. I'm pretty sure he got involved in that situation and was like, this is not how you deal with talent, And I think you can probably start to see maybe some of the acting community in Hollywood. I'm sure a lot of them still want to have that Marvel opportunity. They still want to work for the studio because it's going to mean, possibly a life-changing circumstance, a situation. But when you see how this big machine is operating towards the talent and developing these relationships, it can't be all that reassuring, right? In terms of like wanting to sign up your next 10 years of your life to work with the studio.
That's rich coming from Bob Iger, though, in terms of what Bob Chapek did to Scarlett Johansson with all the shit he's been talking on writers and actors during this whole strike. So,
Exactly.
so that as an aside, but it came off as very sexist. Um, Everybody knows, I think everybody would agree that she probably should have had her own movie before Captain Marvel. She should have
Long time ago.
her standalone female superhero film. So to have it, the way that it was even produced was jacked up, and then you play with her money. You know what did Big Worm say? You mess with my money, now you mess with my emotions, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't do that to people in the age of social media, in the age where there's so much information that's out there, and in an age where, for the most part, people are going to side with the worker, not with the company,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
fighting a uphill battle, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of siding with workers as opposed to the companies, Des, we talked about this a lot a few months ago, but the Victoria Alonso situation
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that one of the three pillars of this company who had been there since the beginning is just all of a sudden gone. You know, they already were having problems, and then to once again go back to the situation about a woman, a person of color in a position of power, wanting to explore some really creative opportunities outside of Marvel. She produced a film that was produced by another studio, apparently, that, you know, went against her contract. Don't know those details exactly, but allegedly that's the reason she got fired. But it's also no coincidence that she was the head of post production and VFX, which is this
Mm-hmm.
other huge, massive issue that's been brought up. I mean, from a leadership standpoint, when you see the company itself, the parent company, having issues like a Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, and then the studio itself is now losing a very integral part, thus putting probably more pressure on Kevin Feige, who's already stretched thin. That has to also like raise a red flag about, well, what is this next stuff going to look like? I mean, it was already in a very, very tough position, but
Mm-hmm.
now we're losing a key component, maybe the most key component to this entire process in VFX and post production. Like these movies are massive visual effects movies. I mean, what were your thoughts just on seeing that added on top of all the other issues that we've sort of been counting on?
Yeah, it's we're literally in the world of superheroes, man. And what is more, I think, alarming than the lack of a visual effects leader, right? Your visual effects leader stepping out has to be one of the most scary and alarming things for anybody, not only again because of the VFX part of it, but because of how strained Kevin Feige already is and potentially having to take on some of those responsibilities of Victoria Alonso exiting and what all that means, and it's not like they immediately appointed someone else like, oh, this is the new Victoria Alonso. It's like, no, she's just gone. that's that's it for now. And we have to make do with what we have. It's just scary. Like what are and Brian was saying there's like so many different problems. We're all saying there's so many different problems. This thing is it's just it's all just very alarming, man. It's like how do you move forward? Why hasn't Marvel stepped up and said, hey, we found a new person to take Victoria Alonso's spot? Again, not in the spirit of replacing her, but you got to replace, you know what I mean? You got to
Mm-hmm.
literally fill the position. And we haven't done that. And I think it seems to me like it's shown already, right? In the movies that we've seen, the crazy, weird Thor: Love and Thunder stuff, the Quantum Mania stuff. Again, that's more than Victoria Alonso missing, right? That's a whole visual effects, too much work needing to be done, not enough time at the same time. But I think all of these things combined are creating this vortex of things that we're losing in the process. We never really questioned a lot of those early projects of Marvel, right? A lot of that stuff looks good to us. A lot of that stuff works for us, and it's weird that we're going backwards, and we can't pretend like something like losing a huge executive like Victoria Alonso, one of those pillars, is not attributing to that.
I think that hey, I'm prediction time, guys. The VFX studios at Marvel last week voted unanimously to unionize, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mark my words, after this writer and actor strike is over, there's going to be a strike with the VFX with Marvel.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's coming. Bob Iger is so anti-union, and he does not seem to want to negotiate in good faith. And now that he doesn't have the other studios pressuring him to play ball, I don't think that that's going to go well. Kevin Feige may try to like clean that stuff and serve as a mediator. Like you said, there's no leadership over there to help with negotiations. Once the writers and the actors get what they deserve, I feel like that was just a response to what was going on at Marvel, period. There's going to be a strike for that, which is going to further delay everything else that they're trying to do over there because they're not treating people right. This hire more folks and give them more time to do stuff. How hard is that? Or figure out more creative. There used to be a time, I'm old enough to remember a time where practical effects were a thing too, right?
What a time that was.
A great time.
Without everything being green screen and blue and white balls all over people, like mocap from Mortal Kombat. There used to be a time where that wasn't the case. So maybe we get a little bit more creative, do some more street level type of movies where you don't need a lot of VFX and give these people some space to breathe.
Yeah, I think we have to get there. I mean, because these budgets have also become so inflated as well, and it's not just due to VFX and the amount of green screen technology or whatever is used. Like, there's a lot of factors to that, but it certainly doesn't help with the cost of these movies. And when you produce a movie that costs 250 $300 million, then you have to make so much money in order for it to be successful. Thus the narrative then becomes, if it doesn't hit this certain mark, which is typically $1 billion, then it's considered a failure, which is kind of ludicrous that we've gotten there, because it didn't used to be like that. Movies used to come out, if they cost maybe 75 million or even 100 million, if you made 400 or 500 million, that's really, really good. Like, you did pretty good. You're not making boatloads of money, but you've justified the desire to want to come back and do another one, to continue on that franchise. And I think we do have to get to that place of like, let's maybe scale some of this down. Brian, what you said earlier that I really, really loved is the fact that they have now gained this desire to want to do more, and they want to grow, and their ambition has just gotten so large with Disney Plus. And I mean, you're coming off the Infinity Saga. They are literally the kings of Hollywood, undefeated pretty much. But because of that, it's caused, I think, a pipeline of issues that we're not traditionally used to seeing, because when you have so many things that are in production, there's also just an increased risk that we're not going to see a lot of this stuff for a long time. A lot of things have been delayed. A lot of things are just kind of in flux and up in the air. Blade has been in development for a very long time now, and it continues to go and iterate, throughout its stages of development. We don't even know when that movie's coming out, really. And now the writer's strike, even though it looks like it's at an end, is also impeding upon that. I think Daredevil has also had some issues as well, just because of the amount of production there. There have been tons of reshoots on shows like Secret Invasion, and I think it shows. It shows that there's just a lot of stuff being moved around all the time. I remember even Falcon and the Winter Soldier had to add on another few months of reshoots because they took out this storyline that apparently resembled COVID. They didn't want to have a COVID storyline, in that show. But what does that do to you as a fan? Like, does that impede upon your excitement? Does it become a point to where sometimes, like, this behind the scenes stuff, all of this minutia becomes like more of the focal point to the franchise and the actual product itself, which is where you never want to be?
I think that first of all, as an aside, I was so excited after leaving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm like, Marvel is back. It made my top 5 of the summer. And then Secret Invasion drops. And it's quite literally, not figuratively, I want to be very clear, the worst show I've seen probably in 5 years. It was so bad. I don't think that there's any, they got those 1970s weird movies from Disney on Disney Plus right now you can watch that are just, those are better than Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is shit. And it's like Sam Jackson's in it, you're excited. I don't know what they did to that show. But now the Marvels has to overperform.
Yeah.
We're talking about that up and down, up and down, up and down. Now the Marvels, and I think Iman Vellani is maybe the most likable person in the MCU that nobody knows. I'm glad that the writer strike's ending. Maybe the actor strike can end quick enough to where they need to put her everywhere and have her out there and get her an interview so that she can promote that movie and hopefully promote Marvel again. But I feel like the delays, as well as the amount of content, it looked the amount of content looked very enticing. I was just excited as everybody else. But even with the delays, and then on top of that, just how much stuff there is, we don't have an actual Avengers movie to 2025, 2026. Avengers Endgame was 2019. We have been introducing character after character after character, and we have no idea how these pieces are going to fit. Shang-Chi was one of my favorite characters in phase 4. Have not seen him since that film, not even for a cameo at the end of a movie, at the end of a TV show. Nothing. You get nothing from him. You get nothing from so many of these other characters that they introduced that I don't know why people would care. They need to, and Bob Iger's has hinted that he's going to try to push for this, or he is going to push for this. They need to shrink their content down. He wants to do it for financial reasons. I think they need to do it for creative reasons and really try to focus, get people invested in what they've already shared with us. If not, I just don't think people are just not going to care anymore. Mm-hmm. People just aren't going to care. This is the age of now, right?
Des, is it just, you know, a situation of they're just going after too much? You know, when you have so much that you're juggling, not only are you oversaturating the product that you're trying to sell, but you are also creating many new problems for yourself that you didn't necessarily have to deal with before. And we've added an animation pipeline. We can't forget that that's also a part of this large equation as well. So, I mean, what would that look like? Is it just purely scaling back on the amount of things that they produce, or is it possibly examining just, I don't know, maybe just the way that things are doled out, you know, in terms of like how often we receive them, or maybe the scale of them. Maybe they don't have to necessarily invest, you know, a certain amount of resources into a certain property, and they can like shrink it down. Instead of 6 episodes, we can just do like the 1 episode specials that they've been trying to do. What would you, you know, sort of say to that possible solution?
I think a mix of all of this would be a good solution, man. I think, imagine, I don't know, the Infinity Saga's happening, Disney Plus happens, and they're like, all right, guys, we need 3 shows and 3 movies in the same year. And everyone's like, okay, wait a second. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? What are you asking from us? You know how hard it is to make all of those projects intersect? In that moment, you have to literally figure out, you had a meeting. Disney had a meeting and like, look, y'all, we got all these shows. Now we need all of these to be in the same universe, but they're all coming out in the same year. That's why nothing feels connected. There's no time to figure out how to connect anything. How can you possibly sit down and get that done when 2 weeks, everything's due in 2 weeks, you know what I mean? And so I think there's I think a mix of everything you said, Jordan, would be the answer. One, of course, slow down, make it so, I don't know, make things aren't as intentional, I feel like, as they used to be, right? I feel like back when we used to get other phases, you could kind of see the foreseeable future. Right now, we know the future, but we can't. The pieces in between don't make any sense to us. We're like, okay, yeah, Kang Dynasty. What does that mean? I knew Thanos was coming. Avengers 1, even before that. You know what I mean? We knew Thanos was coming. Right now, I mean, Kang is coming, but we don't know what the in between really means and what that looks like. There's no sprinkle of Infinity Stones. There's no sprinkle of, this is, the incursions haven't start happening for the Secret Wars. Like, we are.
And what does he even want at this point? You know, what is his goal?
What is Kang's? We don't even know what he wants. It was very easy for Thanos to have a post-credit scene and the Infinity Gauntlet pops up. You know what I mean? Like, we knew what was happening, but it's because they knew their intention. They knew what they were going for. And so I part of me I'm not even sure they know exactly what they're going for 100%. If they do, the middle ground is too muddled. Our path there is too muddled for us to understand. But I think we can get there if we slow down and connect the dots intentionally. Again, it doesn't feel as intentional as it used to. It feels like, all right, let's just get it out and we'll figure it out later. That's not really what it used to feel like. It didn't really feel like always figure it out later. It felt like at some point they were like, yeah, they got this together. We're on a journey. Right now, it feels like we're on a journey with Marvel, not Marvel leading the journey themselves. It's kind of what it feels like, and that's not okay.
No doubt.
I have a really all my solutions. I'm gonna do do you want my solutions for this to go from the least hot to the most hot, or start at the hottest take possible and then work my way down? I got all.
Let's build up. If you know, in terms of like how you would solve this, you know, let's start with like the least, the lukewarm version, and then work up to that real hot, scorching hot stuff.
Well, to me, the easiest thing to do right now, especially if they want to continue to pump out content for Disney Plus, which was obviously based off of all of the the end credit scenes we're getting in the movies and stuff. They were all trying to lead into TV shows. That's fine. Make your money, Disney Plus. Go ahead and recalibrate all of Phase 5 and Phase 6 and be very direct and say, these properties are Marvel Knights. They have nothing to do with Secret Wars or the Kang Dynasty or any of those types of this. They have their own small story going on. This section is just X-Men. Like, actually give us, because that's the way comics work. Not everything crosses, even on crossover events, not everything crosses into those events. People who don't read comics or may not understand that world that they're trying to recreate in the MCU needs that explained to them. And the MCU needs to be faithful to that, right? So don't, if you want to keep all the content because you need the money, fine. Just break it out and say, okay, these are the characters you need to follow if you want to follow Kang Dynasty. Daredevil is not going to have anything to do with the Secret Wars. He didn't have anything to do with the original one anyway, right? The Punisher or whoever you want to, Blade doesn't have anything to do with Secret Wars. This is all within its own world. And so that's the first thing. Or this is just the Young Avengers, and Young Avengers is going to have its own thing. Like, break out something that's a little bit more easy for fans to follow so that the expectations aren't this high. I think people's expectations are too high. So that's my first take. That's lukewarm. My spiciest take is abandon Secret Wars, period. Get out of that space.
Oh. I think that's pretty yeah, that is a hot take to just like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
The only things that have played into Secret Wars, really, if we think about it, Loki and Loki season 2 coming, WandaVision, and Multiverse of Madness. And I guess if you want to count What If, we can talk about What If too. Everything else has been pretty self-contained, I feel like. And nobody's connecting those dots anyway. I think you can finish off Kang Dynasty and not be Secret Wars, just do like a Kang Dynasty thing and do like a Loki season 3 and finish that story arc and be done with it. That way you get past that Jonathan Majors issues if it doesn't clear it up. And you can accelerate into something pretty fantastic within the next couple of years instead of waiting to 2026, 2027 to get another Avengers film. So I would get rid of Kang Dynasty. I would get rid of, I know X-Men is coming. I wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't do Fantastic Four. Because they don't have space for it. And also, I have this feeling with X-Men, I'm hoping it's not the case, but I feel like it will be. They're going to be really trying to focus on the Chris Claremont era of X-Men like they've been doing for so long, over and over and over again. And I'm not interested in any of those stories anymore. I would rather have some more new things come through.
Yes, House of X. House of X.
House of X, or I was even thinking if they were going to introduce X-Men into the MCU, the Messiah complex makes the most sense to me.
Oh, that would be good, yeah.
Hope be born, because they've been hinting at mutants. You can say mutants have been underground and now they have to protect this baby or whatever. Kind of do something like a Children of Men type of storyline with the Messiah complex. That's what I would do. But I wouldn't do any Fantastic Four or X-Men just because I don't think that they're going to do them right. And I think it's already too oversaturated with heroes that we don't even know we're supposed to be connected with or not. So that's my two.
I mean, that is a radical change, but I think we are kind of in a time of radical change where they really need to assess and think about, like, is this where we want to go? Because with Secret Wars, Kang Dynasty, as you said, those movies aren't coming out for another 3, 4, maybe 5 years, depending on just like timelines. And if we just have to continue to ride this out the way that it's been riding out, we're not doing well. It's a pretty bad situation.
We just assembled the Avengers already. Why is the first big group event we get in is Thunderbolts? Nobody gives a shit about the Thunderbolts.
I keep saying that it doesn't make sense.
Shows anyway. So that's what we're leading up to. The end Phase 5 is the Thunderbolts. Get out of here. Give me an Avengers movie with Miss Marvel, with Sean, with Ironheart, with the new Black Panther. Put the team together and have them face. I can't think of a major threat they haven't dealt with yet, but there's so many litany of villains that they could do, and just be done with it and forget all this other stuff that they're doing. Thunderbolts, nobody cares about it. I'm sorry, Marvel, they don't. You haven't made us care. There's nothing. I'm looking at the slate now. There's nothing coming up. Is Brave New World going to make me care about the Thunderbolts? I doubt it, because I don't care about Brave New World.
So
So
that's my next question for you is, as we wrap up here, like, is there anything that does excite you, that is coming out over the next year, couple of years? It could be movie or TV. Maybe it is something that can like lead into like some of the things you're suggesting, but is there one project that sticks out for you?
Loki season 2, I'm excited for, even though they have and I'm not putting Jonathan Majors into prison or anything yet, because there is really, to me, hasn't been enough to come out to say one way or
Mhm.
a lawyer. It's all public opinion right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I am excited about Agatha and Daredevil whenever it comes. In terms of movies, and I actually thought Phase 4 movies were pretty good. Um, Pretty good is relative to what we've seen in like Phase 3, but no. Fantastic Four, Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, Avengers, the Secret Wars. I don't care about any of those.
Mm-hmm. That says a lot about where we are.
Deadpool 3, I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm.
The Marvels has my, because I would say that Mon Vellani is probably the best thing that came out of the TV series, to me, in terms of a character, a fully fleshed out character. Um,
That's where I think a lot of us are there. Where a lot of us are like, yeah, there's a couple of things, but like by and large, I'm not looking at a full slate like, oh, I can't wait for everything that they're about to drop. Like it used to feel that way, but it doesn't really feel that way anymore.
Kevin Feige needs to get a bunch of like do some get some groups in to do some product, not product placement, but you know how they like do like testers with, they ask like fans questions and stuff.
Yeah, focus groups and stuff. Yeah,
Most of them are not going to care about Kang Dynasty. Give yourself permission to pivot. Nobody knows what's going on with that anyway, and do something different. Do something different. Continue to give. And one thing that Marvel's done that I really do like is that they've given really good directors creative control during Phase 4 for the most part. I think that Chloe
Mhm.
Zhao, what she did with Eternals is the best looking film that they've ever created to me. Cinema, not visual effects wise. Visual effects are really good there too. But the shots and the sequence and the filters she put on her
the
lenses,
landscapes.
the
Yeah,
landscapes, the way that she was able to change slightly the way that film looked as they traveled forward in time, and a lot of themes that they did with that show,
Mhm.
incredible. I think that James Gunn, obviously, you can go on and on and on. They did really good with their movies in terms of trying to tell a story. It's just that I think people were not connecting to some of these films because they didn't know where they were leading. If we didn't have the idea that they were leading somewhere, then we wouldn't be in a big issue. Eternals, I know Eternals has the issue. I'm always going to apologize for Eternals. Eternals should have been a TV show. They should have gave
Mhm.
Al the Rings of Power, House of Dragon treatment. They gave her a bunch of money and made like a 6, 7, 8 episode TV show, and it would have been, because it was just too packed with stuff. That was the main issue.
Exactly. Yep.
Um, Moon Knight should have been a movie, so you could have switched those two and been good.
right.
So continue to get good directors.
Yeah,
If they
absolutely. Well, Brian, I think I love your suggestions. I think you presented a really compelling plan, and that permission to pivot is another important point that I do want them to remember, that sometimes like the pivots like you have to take, even though that they might be challenging. So we really appreciate you hopping on today to help us talk about the MCU and to help us celebrate the 200th episode of Two Black Nerds. Before we officially get out of here, can you just let the people know where they can find you, what you got going on?
Absolutely. I just want to say again, if this is your first of the 200 Two Black Nerds episodes, go back and watch the archives of them, or listen to the archives. Spotify is my app of choice, but you use whatever you want. These guys really know their stuff and they're entertaining. They do watch along sometimes. That's fun too. Check them out. You can check me out at Brian Knows Movies. That's BRYON Knows Movies on YouTube. And on my website, brianknowsmovies.com, that's where I'm the most active. I do some stuff on Insta and Facebook here and now, as well. Mainly Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, I have See It, a show about movies and stuff. And we talk about the latest news in movies, and I do some reviews and trivia and just have some fun.
Amazing. Thank you for those kind words, man. I mean, that is amazing to hear. I appreciate that for sure. I know we both
Yes.
appreciate that. And we
Mhm.
appreciate you coming on to share all of your knowledge and expert opinion on the MCU. And yeah, man, we'll do this again sometime. We'll try to make this happen
For
again
sure.
soon and bring you back, and we can talk about some more stuff for sure.
100%.
Absolutely. But until then, man, take care. Appreciate you hopping on today.
Thank you.